Salutations friends, welcome back to my channel and happy Valentine's Day. Today I thought it would be an appropriate video to talk to you guys about some of the fragrances that make me the happiest because they just remind me of my husband and just good memories I have with him. So this is going to be kind of like a little story time video, but I am going to talk about my fragrances as well. So if you guys want to know which fragrances remind me the most of my husband and bring forth the fondest memories, then keep watching. A little reminder, if this is your first time tuning in, hi, welcome, don't forget to subscribe, and happy Valentine's Day most importantly. If you guys don't know, my husband hates fragrances. He hates them, which is so funny because I'm so obsessed with them, but he's very supportive in the fact that he just turns a blind eye to my obsession and it's like, okay, this is your thing, that's fine, and I try to be respectful when I wear fragrances around him and not wear the ones that he really just cannot even be around. But there are just some fragrances that remind me of him, one or two fragrances that he actually likes, and just things in general that just bring back really happy memories. So I'll give you guys a little story about us. My husband is a few years younger than me, and I actually met him through mutual friends and his brother. Growing up, he had really long hair when he was little until he was like 3. And his brother had brought in pictures because we shared a few classes together of when they were little, like in specific clothes they were wearing. And I just looked at my husband's picture, John, and I went to Cap and I'm like, your little sister's adorable. And he's like, that's my brother. And that was my first time seeing John. And then a few months later, we both worked at the Ren Fest. We were in high school. He was a freshman, but he went to a different high school than his brother because his brother was a magnet and I was an IB. So we went to that school because that was a good school for those programs. And then I did most of my volunteer work I did either at a cartoon art museum and also during Ren Fest. So his brother was there, we talked, we became friends. We both instantly kind of like really liked each other, but because some of our friends were jerks and also because some of them were meddling, we never quite like clicked it romantically, but we were really good friends. We hung out all the time. There was my friend Sandy, and like the three of us would hang out all the time, like almost every single day. So we knew each other for a while. We were consistently friends for forever, practically for years. We all have the same group of friends, and then we kind of dated a few years ago before we got together officially, but that didn't work out, which was fine. And then a few years passed and then we got back together and it was more serious, and here we are. So me and my husband have known each other since 2001. So we've been friends for about 16 years now. Renfest is just starting up, so it's been almost officially like 16 years. And we've been together, like officially a couple, for almost 8 years, and we've been married for 2.5. So that's the story of my husband. So the first fragrance I wanted to talk to you guys about, I have to pull it out of this obnoxious travel package. There we go. I don't know why I got this. Is the worst thing ever. Is Molecule 1 from Escentric Molecules. Now, if you're gonna wonder why this fragrance reminds me of my husband, is because when we were in Renfest, and also the house that he used to live in, because him and his brother had their own house, like 2 houses down from where his mother lived. They always kind of had their own separate house. Renfest smelled like woods to me, very woody, and his house, they had just put in cedar wood floors. And every time I went over to his house, and I used to spend the night there, but it wasn't just me, it was like 6 of us. Like, there was always so many of us. We were a very social group of friends. And it was just such a strong cedar wood floor smell that any time I smell cedar wood, I think back to that time, and it makes me really happy because, like, you know, like you have a crush, but you know, you don't think anything's gonna come of it, so you don't worry too much about it, like, and you just kind of like have fun and just like, oh, it's a little crush, no big deal, nothing's gonna come of this, and you just have a lot of fun, and you just, it reminds me of that time. It really does. It's, to me, it's really a special smell, like cedar. And what I love about this is this on my skin is straight cedar wood. There's no fragrance note to it. I just smell like a tree. But I really love that about this fragrance because it does remind me so much of that time, and it makes me so happy. So anytime I wear this, I just remember that, and it makes me so happy, you guys. This fragrance, oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. And it smells like that on my skin, and that's why I really love it, because it just kind of reminds me of the beginningness of our relationship, and just having a lot of fun and being friends and just enjoying our youth, and just, you know, going over to his house and kind of having the freedom of having, you know, like, his parents were very, not liberal, but they were just kind of like, you know, you guys are responsible, here's a house, you know, and we would just all like eat ice cream, read comic books, watch movies, you know, like, it was just a fun time, and this reminds me of that. But I would go there specifically to hang out with John, so that's why it really reminds me of my husband. Okay, next fragrance, and I've talked about this one, and this is actually the fragrance I'm wearing today, so I might reapply it after I talk to you about it. The next fragrance that makes me really, really happy and reminds me of my husband is, right before we officially got together, I had just broken up with somebody. We had lived together and been together for 2.5 years. We had broken up, and like literally 2 weeks later I was with John. I had moved out from his house to John's house, but I was going to just be like a roommate and a tenant because my other friends lived here, so it would just kind of be like a roommate situation. That went out the window real fast, but it wasn't the reason why I broke up with that guy. Unfortunately, that guy's a good guy, and he's not going to watch these videos, but I just kind of want to put it out there. Have you ever been with someone who's a good person? They just bring, you know, you just bring out the worst in them, or they bring out the worst in you. Like, we brought out the worst in each other. We were the most horrible people, and I mean horrible people, when we were with each other. Like, it was never meant to be. It was a 2.5 year long relationship. It should have ended at 3 months, but we were both very stubborn. And we ended up living together and having a dog. It was, trust me, if you don't ever feel like the person is not good, just get out. It's not worth, you're worth more than that. And it doesn't mean that they're not a bad person or a good person, or you could be a bad person or a good person. Just sometimes there's those people that bring out the worst in you, and you bring out the worst in them, and when you're in a relationship with that person and you bring out the worst in each other, it's not good. So John and I got together literally within 2 weeks. And it was pretty serious right when we started going out. It wasn't like marriage. It was just kind of like, we're living together, we're in a relationship. But right before we got together, like, we went to Food and Wine Festival at Epcot. And when I broke up with my boyfriend, it was a mutual breakup. I had like went to the mall, and I just kind of wanted to buy something to uplift myself. So I bought a perfume, and it was Bulgari Rose Essentielle, and I had loved and had my eye on this perfume for so long, and I just didn't buy it because at that point I didn't have the funds to buy fragrances liberally like I do now, and even now I need to hold myself back. I shouldn't be as liberal with purchasing them as I do, but that's a different video. But I bought this because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy something that's just going to make me feel happy. And it wasn't, when I broke up with him, I wasn't not happy. It was actually one of the easiest things in the world to do, because it was that thing to do. It was the right thing to do, and it was just literally like, oh, this is great. It was like nothing to me. But I wanted just something, you know, I bought this perfume, just, it made me a little happy, kind of, you know, kind of fixed me up a little bit, you know, like if you see something you want in a bad time, it just kind of uplifts you a little bit. And so, like, me and my husband, or we were friends at the time, this is before we were dating, but we were kind of like, maybe we'll get together, we don't know it. We weren't at that point yet because it had just been like a week that I had broken up. And we went to the Food and Wine Festival, and I brought this perfume with me, and I sprayed it right before we went and we walked around and I got pretty sweaty. And then when we went to the pavilion in France, they have like an area where they have a lot of expensive cosmetics and perfumes and French brands, and I saw that they had this perfume and I was really excited because I'm like, yeah, I can reapply. So I went in and like the lady was talking to me and I'm like, can I put this on? She's like, of course. And I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm wearing this perfume and I need to reapply because it was really hot and sweaty. And she's like, she was laughing. So my husband had like went to get a funnel cake or something, and he came back, or he wanted to get a funnel cake, he went somewhere to look at something, and he like hugged me from behind after I'd reapplied this perfume, and he looked at me and he's like, someone's wearing an impeccable fragrance. And I was just kind of like, it's me. And he really liked this. And he hates perfumes. And even before I knew he hated perfumes. So the fact that he really liked this perfume to the point where he said it was impeccable really made me feel really strongly about this perfume. A, because I loved it, and it just kind of symbolizes to me the beginning of our relationship. And I know I'm dogging, I'm sorry. This is like a story time fragrance video. But that's why I love this one so much, and that's why you'll see this in a lot of my lists, because this is a very basic fragrance. There's not a lot going on in this. It's a very simple rose fragrance. It doesn't have a lot of complexity and depth, but it is very special to me, and it is a beautiful, beautiful rose fragrance at the same time. So that's why I love this one, because this just reminds me of my transition from a really crappy relationship to the relationship I'm in now, where I'm incredibly happy. To end this fragrance journey, which I think is the best way to talk about this video, I'm going to end it with another very special fragrance that reminds me of, just brings back happy memories. And it's the fragrance I wore on my wedding. Now, some of you guys have asked, and I've mentioned this, so this is kind of like I said, a story time chit chat video about, like I mentioned before, that I was proposed to twice, and you guys are like, oh, that's an interesting story, do you want to hear? Let me set the record straight. My mother-in-law had 2 very bitter divorces. It was very hard on her. She's a very strong, wonderful woman, and I love her very much, although sometimes we can butt heads, but I think it happens with anybody. Especially because she is very generous and giving, and sometimes it's just, you know, you take things for granted. But she, my husband is very close to his mom. Like, we live, right now, the property that we live on is kind of like a compound. So she has her own house, which is, I'm looking at it right now. And then we have a guest house, and then my husband and I live in another house. All of the houses were built by her father and grandfather. They are historic homes in Fort Lauderdale, which means that they are beautiful, but they're a little bit impractical. But she has literally grown up in these homes. So she, so with the divorces, when it came down to property and things like that, and money and inheritances and just splitting things, it was very brutal and hard on her. But thankfully everything worked out, and, you know, as best as they could. So my husband is very close to her. He's the youngest son, and they kind of play off of each other. They have a very symbiotic relationship. Is that the right word? I always use the wrong words. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love the fact that he loves his mom so much, because I love my family so much. But when it came down to marriage, my husband and I, when he proposed, because I kind of knew he was going to propose, because initially I was going to buy my own engagement ring, because when we talked about it, and then his mother was like, why would you pay for it? I have a bunch of jewelry lying around, pick one. You know, it was really cute. And so it's an heirloom ring, which is this ring right here. I'll tell you about the whole story, because it's a story, which is this ring right here, which I think was her grandmother's diamond. Initially I was looking at a bigger stone in a different setting, but I love this ring so much. I couldn't imagine having anything else. And my wedding ring, my husband actually designed himself and had made for me, and it's in platinum, and it fits my ring perfectly. And he actually designed that from scratch and had it made at Shapeways. So that was really sweet. But when it came down to getting married, initially he was against marriage because of the divorce, and his mom was against marriage, and we're very non-traditional. And the reason why one of the most important reasons for me to get married was the legal aspect of it. was a lot to do with like the end of life wishes and living will stuff and things like that. I didn't need to get married to know that I was going to stay with him forever, you know, like, and but it was, a lot of it had to do with convenience, but we loved each other. And that's another thing I kind of wanted to say. We loved each other, and we still love each other so much. We loved each other enough to where, yes, we would get married, you know, like it's a big thing. It sounds like less romantic than it is, but it was kind of romantic. So anyway, he proposed to me first with the ring, and we were engaged for about 1.5 years before we got married. And for the first 6 months, it was not a battle, but it was like an argument as if we were going to get legally married or if we were going to have a marriage ceremony and do just a domestic partnership. Like, it was like, and he was worried about money and property and things like that, because like he didn't want to do a prenup or anything like that, because he's like, that's not the point of getting, you know, it's just not what he wanted to do. And then I was like, you know, look, if you want a prenup, it's fine, because his family, you know, it's a weird situation. But anyway, it has to do with property and historic property and things like that. And so we weren't sure how we were going to do it. And it wasn't like we were angry at each other. It was just a hassle. And then we went back to Murakami, which is the garden where he proposed, and we were just hanging out. Just literally, he's just like, let's go, because we'll just go. We go once or twice a month, sometimes 3 or 4 times a month, just because it's nice to go and we have a membership. And like, we went there and it was really, and he got down on his knee again, and I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, Kristen, will you marry me for real? I was like, really? Like, that was his way of telling me that he was okay with the legal marriage, not just like a domestic partnership, a weird paperwork marriage, but you know, it was this weird thing, and it was really sweet. And then like, he had talked with his mom, and they had talked with a bunch of other people, and it made sense for us not to worry about it. And he was just kind of like, he knew it was causing me a lot of distress. And so it was really sweet that he did that like that, rather than just having a conversation, but he just thought it would be really cute to propose again, and I thought it was really sweet. So that's why I got 2 proposals. That's that story. But now getting back to the perfume. Okay, so our wedding, we did everything ourselves. We had a little ceremony for just the family, and then we had our reception later with more people. So it was a few months later, which is how we wanted to do it. And our reception, when I said we do anything, I cooked everything. Everything except for the wedding cakes, which we had one flown in from New York, because ever since I'd met him, he talked about this one wedding, like this one cake that had like different colored flowers, and each flower had a different flavor. And I knew that we had to get that cake for him. We had a wedding tasting, or a cake tasting, and he wasn't happy. And so that was one of the things. So his mom had a friend of hers fly down the cake. So we had 2 wedding cakes. We had one that was like the big cake, and then we had one kind of the groomsman cake, which was his cake, which he was really excited about. But everything else, I made. I cooked. I was cooking for weeks, because we were freezing it, and then we were like sous videing it. I made all the hors d'oeuvres, all of the drinks, because I was a bartender. I made spiked cider, I made sangria, I made like 2 signature drinks, I made coffee, I did everything. Also for, oh hold on, let me show you. Also for, I painted decorative glassware. So what this is I painted everything. I painted over 2,000 pieces of glassware in a year. And I would decorate vases, I decorated drinking glasses, toasting glasses, mugs, lanterns, so many different pieces of glassware I hand painted, and I actually baked these in an oven so it would be permanent. I'm telling you, I did everything. I didn't care about my wedding outfit. Like, the first thing I ordered was completely wrong, and so that was money wasted. And then the next thing I ordered was sized wrong, because I'm like a plus size girl. Let me throw it out there. I know, like, you see this, but I'm a plus size girl. I'm a big lumpy girl. That's fine. I'm okay with it. So like, sizing dresses and stuff was hard. I didn't want a traditional wedding dress. I just kind of wanted a nice, fun wedding outfit. So like at the end of the day, we ended up going to some store like 2 weeks before the wedding, and I just picked something out and it was fine. But I put so much thought into everything, but one of the things I put the most thought in was my wedding scents, was how I wanted to smell on my wedding day. To me, that was really important because, like I said, to me, smells bring back memories, and I wanted to smell nice. But I also knew that my husband doesn't like perfumes, and I didn't want to wear this because this was a special memory already, and I wanted to create a new scent memory. So I tested out fragrances for like months. Like, I spent so much more time on my perfume than my wedding outfit. Like, it makes no sense, but it does to me. So I finally figured out I wanted something really, since it was going to be outside, I wanted something really citrusy and bright and unisex. I didn't want to smell too feminine. I wanted to smell just kind of really something I could wear anywhere at any time and just invoke the memory of the day. And so I sampled a bunch of things, and I had went to the fragrance counter at Neiman Marcus, just kind of like ready to just try a few things and sample a few things. And I've known about Francis Kurkdjian. He is the nose behind some of my favorite fragrances, but I didn't know that he had his own line of fragrances, just like as under Maison Francis Kurkdjian or the House of Kurkdjian. And I was sitting there and I was fangirling with the fragrance lady for like an hour and a half. Like, we were just talking about perfume forever. And she's like, let me give you some samples, you know, because she knew what I was looking for. And she's like, just wear them and come back. And one of the samples she had given me was Aqua Universalis Forte. And I had sampled Aqua Universalis at the counter and had really enjoyed it, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. And then when I sampled this, the Forte, oh my gosh, you guys, it was exactly how I wanted to smell. I'm just remembering my wedding now. I'm actually getting a little bit teary-eyed. Like, that's what scents do to me. And I know that's what scents do to a lot of people. Like, scents evoke memories and things like that, to bring back memories. And I was like, oh my gosh, I went back like the next day and I was like, I need to get a bottle of that. So that's this fragrance. And I wore this on my wedding day and it was perfect. And I had such a fun day. I was literally cooking and making hors d'oeuvres, and everyone had arrived, and literally, like, my mom had come in. She's like, Kristen, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm finishing up making things. She's like, Chris, everyone is here. Because it wasn't like a ceremony, so it was just kind of like a party. And normally when we do throw parties, or my mother-in-law throws parties, I'm just in the kitchen cooking. So it was just like nothing. It's like, oh, I'm just supposed to be here cooking. She's like, you know, people are here to see you. Like, get your butt out there. We don't care if we have enough of these like little brioche buns. Get out here, you know. And so like it was fun. Like, it was just like a little dinner party, and like it was really nice, and it was a lot of fun, and I smelled nice, and I was really happy. And my dad gave it the toast, and my husband, you know, they talked about the ring and everything and how he had made it, and had talked about us, and it was a really wonderful day, and I smelled beautiful. And so now every time I wear this, I just think about that day, and it makes me, I'm literally ready to cry, you guys. It makes me so happy because it just reminds me, it's like coming full circle, you know. It's like meeting my husband, knowing my husband, being friends for so long, having this history together, and then getting together, and then coming to being married. And it's a wonderful, wonderful story. And this is just kind of like the end of that story, even though it's not the end because we're still together and we're still building memories, but it's just kind of like the first book, you know. Like, the beginning is this one, is the Eccentric Molecules, the middle is this one, and the end of the first book is this guy. And so it makes me really happy to just smell this and smell these, and just to remember the story of me and my husband and how we got together and our love story. And we're very non-traditional people. Like, you know, if you met us, you'd be like, you know, we don't seem very traditional because we're not. You know, my husband didn't want a wedding at all, and he compromised a lot so that I could have some type of ceremony to celebrate with my family. I mean, like, we're really laid back, like non-traditional people, but it is nice to have some very special memories that are romantic and sweet associated with some beautiful fragrances, so that when I wear these fragrances I remember those times and it makes me really happy. So this was kind of a long story time video, but I thought it would be fun to talk about with you guys because some of you guys have asked and I've been meaning to talk about, because I keep mentioning these fragrances and bringing back like, oh, this reminds me of this, and I figured it might be nice to have one video where I kind of really go into depth as to why these fragrances are so special to me. So yeah, I would love to know if you guys have any special fragrances like this. I love hearing stories. So if you guys have any fragrances that just remind you of something really special in your life, that every time you wear it, it just brings back those memories, it makes you feel really good, I would love to know what those fragrances are for you guys, so let me know. As always, if you guys like videos like this, specifically my fragrance videos, give this video a thumbs up. Lets me know to continue doing videos like this, and also don't forget to subscribe. It's free, and I'm free, and I put out new videos every Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends as well, so I'll always have something for you to watch. In any case, I hope you guys are all happy and healthy and have a great day, month, year, whatever, and I'll see you next time. Bye!